Shall we put this?
Yes, sir.
Any other properties that you know? Any other properties that you have studied which you have missed out here? Anything else?
Suppose impossible event, that value is 0.
Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, so let's try that. So
What more is, suppose certain event, that
that value is 1.
value
That's
is 1.
nice. Yes, yes. So let's write that. So P of impossible event is 0. Impossible event is 0. P of certain event is 1. Yeah, is that right? Now I'm going to ask you a question. Anyway, I think we have written lot many interesting properties, but I'm going to ask you some questions for which I need answer. In all these things, there is one word which seems to be very, very common. The common word seems to be A is an event, probability over all events of all events, probability of intersection of two events, probability of union of two events, probability of impossible event, probability of certain event. Question is, what is an event?
Yeah.
So, what is an event?
Favorable.
I hope you don't mind, no, me asking you questions. You don't feel bad that this guy is asking too many questions and what's he trying to do? Because I really enjoy when somebody interacts and then, comes out with certain statements and then we try to refine that statement and all those things. So please don't feel bad, Don't ask me why you are behaving so high-handed, asking questions and stuff. This is the way I really I do most of my workshops so that participants also interact and gain a lot. So what is an event in the first place?
Outcomes.
Outcomes of variables which is going to occur.
Okay, so now we have a question. What is outcome? So now I ask the second question. Outcome of what?
Any experiment which we conduct.
Oh, that's outcome of what?
Sir, outcomes we can say.
Huh? That's what outcomes I've written. So now the next statement that somebody made was outcome of any experiment, right?
Yeah.
Of any experiment. That's now. I'm exactly getting the answers that I want. So now the question is, what is experiment?
Tossing a coin is an example of a random experiment.
That is now next question. What is random experiment? Right?
Anything which we can't predict means what will be the outcome of that experiment, means for example tossing a coin like that.
There is no restriction any experiment.
See, when we say when you ask your students, suppose he bunks your class, he's absent for a class. You ask him, why were you absent in yesterday's class? Suppose that fellow tells, yes sir, I was absent. What is it that you'll say? Why? Give me some reason. I asked you, why are you absent? Don't tell me I was absent. That I know, right? So I asked you a question, what is experiment? You will say random experiment. What is experiment in the first place? How do you
It can
define
have more number of possibilities, like many number of possible outcomes.
We've not defined experiment at all. No? Only when we define experiment, we will know that there can be many number of outcomes or outcomes. We don't know.
An activity.
That's brilliant. That's a fantastic answer. So this is basically an activity. Activity with what?
It can be anywhere. For a random this thing, you can't. There will be many outcomes, or you're not able to predict what will be.
That is random experiment. That is random experiment. But what is this experiment alone? I want to look at. See, you would have done your physics experiment, chemistry experiment. You would have done a lot of experiment in your graduate studies, undergraduate studies, schools, etc. What is an experiment in the first place?
An activity where we perform certain things.
Is an physical events.
Experiment and event. Okay. No, don't confuse here. Experiment is different, event is different. In our notation of probability,
physical action.
Activity, that's what you said. But activity.
Output cannot be predicted.
That is random experiment. Activity with what? See, you have to conduct activity with certain things, no?
There are certain possible inputs given, and based on that, whatever things are given,
Is that all?
based on that, we
When,
perform.
okay, I'll go back to the other. I'll again go back to what do you call it? This food making process. Suppose if you want to make coffee, preparing coffee is an experiment, right? How do you prepare coffee? At the end of it, you will get coffee decoction. That's fine. But
A
how do you
set of
prepare coffee?
a set of
With
steps defined.
algorithm,
Exactly.
depend
You have
algorithm.
exactly. You have a set of procedures. You keep the procedure constant, and then you do an activity. Follow that set of procedures. Okay, activity with prescribed based on prescribed set of procedures. Based on prescribed procedure. Is that okay? That's what we call as experiment. Now, what is a random experiment? Oh, no, there is something more interesting. It is not just an activity based on prescribed procedure. The point is, this prescribed procedure should yield some result. Okay, which yields some result. Okay, I'll probably, okay. Which yields some result. Okay. See, no result can also be a result, but we will see what it is. Okay, what does that mean? So now, what is a random experiment? See, for example, when you do an experiment, which say, as I said, like coffee making, you know what is the outcome of doing that experiment. What is the outcome? Outcome is making coffee decoction or making a cup of coffee. Is that right? Now, what is a random experiment?
Unorganized activities where the outcome is unpredictable.
Outcome is unpredictable. Is that correct way of saying? Okay, random experiment is basically an experiment whose outcomes are not predictable. What do you mean
Procedure
by
is defined, but the output could be anything.
that's a nice answer. Outcomes are not predictable. That's what output could be. Anything, somebody said, no? Not predictable. Suppose I tell you, I throw a coin. I toss a coin. Can the outcome be getting a card of hearts?
No.
So what is it that you're going to say now? You said outcome can be anything, right? The result was, because especially in probability, unless we make tight statements, things can go very, very wrong. I'll tell you certain statements where you will actually find, okay, how did we probably not even look at this? Okay, so unless we make it very, very tight statement that there is no ambiguity, we will fall into a bigger trap. Okay, so whose outcomes are not predictable? That means what? Can it be some random stuff? Like I asked you when I toss a coin, can I get a card of hearts?
No.
I can't get. So what should be the when I say outcomes are not predictable? What more clause I must add?
It could be in the range of predefined outputs.
Exactly. So from a set of from a set of already known outcomes for the experiment, from a set of all possible outcomes of the experiment. Is that clear? Outcomes of the experiment. Now, this is where we begin our first formal definition. We are going to say the set of all possible outcomes of a random experiment is basically the sample space. All possible outcomes of a random experiment is called sample space associated with the random experiment. Denoted as omega or S. Okay. So therefore, I have another question now. What does the definition of sample space tell us? So what is the interpretation of the sample space definition? Can we make some interpretation? Hello?
It includes all the outcomes, not even possible, all of them.
Exactly. So this simply means we must know all possible outcomes.
Set of possible outcomes.
So we must know all possible outcomes. It's not that I suddenly get a surprise, right? See, typically this happens, right, in VTU exams and all. See, if you write an exam, if a student writes an exam, either he passes the exam or he fails in the exam. Suddenly somebody comes and says, look, your results are withheld. That is something which we never anticipated. A student, when he writes an exam, he knows whether he will get a pass mark or a fail mark, that's all. But suddenly someone comes and says, look, your results are withheld. That is something which do not belong to this sample space. Therefore, what we should do, we must say there is equal probability of 3 events that's happening. One is pass, one is failure, and the other one is withheld. So a student's result in an exam can be one of these 3, with each of them being 1/3 probability. Is this clear? We must know all possible outcomes. So in any random experiment that you are trying to do, if you try to model any random phenomena, if you try to model any uncertainty, you must know, before even doing a probabilistic model, you must know exhaustively the list of all possible outcomes. If you cannot make it, if you still see some new stuff getting into it, then it means our modeling is not correct. We must include that also. Is that clear? This is like what people were talking about in terms of corona. Nobody even was thinking that something would come, so people were not preparing vaccine or whatever. Suddenly, when it came, now what has happened? Yeah, people know that there is something which can hit like people like this, the entire world like this, so start preparing vaccine for that. Yeah, so it is something like that. Now, the next question that I have is that we defined event as outcome. Is that all what we should do?
Subset of the sample space.
Ah, that's brilliant. So we like that. So that's a very good answer. Q. Event means what? So the answer somebody gave is fantastic answer. Said events are nothing but are subsets of sample space. What is so special about the subsets of sample space? How many subsets can exist for a sample space? For example, let us take that example. Let omega be the sample space, we say 4. I have 4 cards which are numbered from 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, how many subsets are possible for this?
2 to the power 4.
Okay. So people said it is 2 to the power of 4. Therefore, 16. Oh, can you please mute yourself? 16 subsets are possible. The question is, are all these subsets qualified as events? Now, why I ask this question is, we're going to look at something interesting here, because, suppose I tell you, let us take this set of this omega, we have had 1, 2, 3, 4. Suppose I have a subset A, which is nothing but this set 1, 3. And I say subset B, which is 2, 4. Okay. What does the subset A mean? Subset A is set of odd numbers. Yeah, set of odd, and B is set of even. Yeah. Now the question is, what is out of these 4 numbers, what are the chances of getting odd numbers? What is the chance of getting an odd number? 2. It is what there are 2 numbers. Out of 4 numbers, I can get 2 odd numbers, which means the likelihood of getting an odd number is
0.5.
0.5, 1/2, 0.5, half, right? And similarly, set of even numbers is half. So what is the total probability now It is set of odd numbers, the probability of getting set of odd numbers plus the probability of getting even numbers, which is equal to 1.
One.
Suppose I define now suppose I define a set C. I define a set C where I put 2, 3. Okay. When I'm looking at set of odd numbers and set of even numbers, will this set actually make any sense? Will this event make any sense to us?
No.
No, sir.
It need not make, because if I declare this to be set of odd numbers and if I declare this to be the set of even numbers, then totally I can say, in one case I can say P of A union B is equal to P of A plus P of B, which is equal to 1, which is the same as P of omega. A union B is omega in this case, right? Is that right? Can I do that? This will not even make sense. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tweak the definition of my events as subsets of omega that are of our interest. Is this clear? It's not just subsets of the sample space, but it is subsets of omega. Is that okay? Is this clear? Now,
Yes, sir.
okay. Now we had another question. What is this other questions that we had? We said that the probability of certain event is 1, probability of impossible event is 1. What is the impossible event in the first place? So the question is impossible event.
Which cannot occur at all.
Which cannot occur at all. So something
Event of having 5 as the number.
exactly something that cannot occur. That means getting a 5 from the set of 4 cards numbered 1 to 4. Yeah, from the set omega is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, this is impossible to get. Therefore, you always say one more thing. Since empty set is a subset of every set, we say that probability of empty set. Empty set is also an impossible event, because when you toss a coin or when you throw a die, you must definitely get one of those elements which are valid elements. Empty set means there's nothing that turns up. So P of 5 is equal to 0, where 5 is empty set. And the other thing is, it says P of omega is 1 because omega is the sample space. That means your output can only come from sample space. That omega, and why did we put P of omega is equal to 1? Omega has to be an event, right? We know that every set is a subset of itself. Therefore, omega being a set is a subset of itself, and therefore P of omega valid. It is valid for us to talk about probability of omega, and therefore probability of omega we say it is 1. Is that okay? Is this clear?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. Now I have this question. Right in the beginning, somebody told this. Probability is a value between 0 and 1. Right? Let us say I'll put this. So the next thing that we're going to look at is probability of A is greater than or equal to 0, and it is bounded by 1, right? P of A less than or equal to 1. Yeah, that's what we said. Oh, you call this as, there's a name for this property. We call this as non-negativity. Non-negativity of probability. Okay.
So why should this be non-negative? Why should probability be non-negative?
Because probability is never negative. Minimum it can be 0.
The question is why? Why can't it be negative?
No, either you will get the outcomes or no outcomes. No outcomes means 0. Negative, there is no chance only.
A definition of probability.
That is definition of probability. But is there something else that we can add? See, in fact, this forms the what do you call very basic substantiation for probability being non-negative. Can you please tell me? Can you please think of it? What is probability?
So a ratio, that's actually the definition of probability, that is a ratio. Favorable cases is whole divided by total number of cases. Always is positive.
Okay, fine. Now suppose I give you an interval. I give you an interval. The interval is, let us say, between 0.25 and 0.75. Okay. The interval is 0.25 and 0.75, and I'm going to give you a favorable interval which is between, let us say, 0.4 and 0.6. What is the probability of getting a number in the interval 0.4 to 0.6? How many points are there in the interval 0.4, 0.6?
Many points, sir.
Many, you should not tell me many, you should clearly tell me what is the number of points.
Infinite.
Infinitely many points. How many points are there in the interval 0.25, 0.75? How many points are there in that interval? 0.25, 0.75.
And it is infinite only, sir.
Huh? That is also infinity, right? So what is the probability we're going to get? We're going to get probability which is infinity by infinity. Oh, that doesn't even make sense, right? Is that correct?
Sir, actually is not a set. Actually, that's numbers.
Yeah, number only I'm telling. Suppose I want what is the probability?
First we assume that sample space is finite now.
Yes, but then we have to look for infinite sample space also. The case where in which we look at interval, no, continuous case is also there, right?
Yes.
Because somebody talks about what is the probability of today's temperature in, let's say, Bangalore to be 24 degrees.
Yes.
I have to look at everything. Yeah, so what do we do then? What does this notion of probability actually tell us?
Axioms of probability.
Axioms of probability tells that, okay, 0 less than or equal to P of A less than or equal to 1, P of omega is 1, and then P of A in NB is P of A plus P of B, if A and B are disjoint, right? These are the three axioms of probability. But my question is, see, when I say probability of an event, what is it that I'm actually talking about? Probability of the occurrence of an event. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
We say chances of an event. That means what does this probability basically do? It measures the
Occurrence.
possibility. It measures the likelihood. It measures the possibility of an event occurring. Now, what are all the quantities that we use as measure in real life? What are all the things that we measure actually? Do we measure anything at all?
In total output or total outcome, some events you can choose that. Pick up.
No, my question. No. My question is really simple. In real life, what all things we measure? You go to you measure. You try to buy a site, right? You want to go from one place to another. You measure the distance. You want to go from one place to another. You measure how much time it will take, right? You want to measure milk, saying how much quantity of milk that I should do. To measure a lot of things, right?
It's positive.
Can any of these measures, can length be negative? Can time be negative?
Is always positive, sir. Is always positive.
It's always non-negative. It could be zero also, no? Because if you are at your house, this distance for you to travel to go to your house when you are in your house is zero, right? See, Therefore, what we must understand is the following. We must say that, look, P of A, since P of A measures, the key word here is measures the likelihood of occurrence or likelihood of an event likelihood of an event, it is always non-negative, conforming to the properties of other measures. The properties of other measurable quantities. Is this okay? Is this fine? Is everybody getting this? Is everybody getting the idea? That is exactly why. That is why P of A is at least 0, and since the maximum that you can get is or whatever definition of sample space or whatever, since you are trying to normalize this, and since it is a normalized, normalization that happens, since it is normalization we do, it is P of A is never greater than 1. It is always less than or equal to 1. Is this clear to everybody?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I have a question. What is the question? I have to define a few more terms now. We'll define it, but then before that, we'll take up a question. So let's look at this. Suppose we take the real line. We take the 0, 1 interval on the real line. Okay. Assume that this is the 0, 1 interval. This is 0, this is 1. Or probably I'll scale it more so that you get a better understanding. So let's assume that this is 0, 0.25, 0.5, 0.75. Let me call this as 1. This is the 0, 1 interval on real line. Okay. Now, I have a question to ask. What is the question that I'm going to ask? I'm going to ask, suppose that, assume this is a point A and this is a point B. I want to find out, what I do is, I give you very sharp needle. And then I tell you, throw that needle into this interval. Is the question clear? This is something which we play, People would have played marbles, people would have, including, basketball, whatever that you do. This is like that bullseye that people try to hit. So now what I do is, I give you a very sharp, very fine, sharp needle and then tell you, throw that such that it goes and sits here. Now I ask you a question. What is the probability of that needle sitting in this interval? On what does it depend?
Tends to infinity.
It tends to infinity. Probability cannot tend to infinity. Previous statement only, you said probability is bounded by 1. It is at 1, maximum is 1.
No, sorry, tends to 0.
Are you sure it tends to 0?
Yes, sir, because it will be a number for total event will be nearly infinity. So 1 divided by infinity.
No. That is fantastic. That is the case when there are, we say that, okay, I am not asking you what is the probability of that fellow going and sitting at a point. I am telling you what is the probability of that needle sitting in this interval. On what does it depend? Is the question clear? My question is not about it going
clear,
and sitting at this point.
Yeah,
So the
clear.
question is, what is the probability that it goes and sits inside that interval? What does it depend on is the question. What does it depend on?
So we assume that continuous probability, that intervals A to B.
Okay. No, but the question is pretty simple. What is the okay? I have this question. Okay. How many of you go out to meet your friends for coffee or something? Let's assume that you all plan a meeting with your friends, your close, your college friends, or probably your family friends, your relatives, or somebody. You say that, look, let us all meet at 4 o'clock in, let us say, Mantri Mall in Malleshwaram, right? In Bangalore, Mantri Mall. Let's meet at 4 o'clock. How many of you go exactly at 4 o'clock? What is the probability of somebody going there exactly at 4 o'clock? Vis-a-vis, what is the probability? 1 minute. What is the probability of somebody going to Mantri Mall between 3:45 and 4:15? Vis-a-vis, what is the probability of somebody else going to the Mantri Mall between 3 and 5? You have to be there at 4 o'clock. What is the probability of you being there exactly at 4, reaching there at 4, versus the probability of you being there between 3:45 and 4:15, versus the probability of you being there between 3 and 5? I hope the question is clear.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Which one is
Probability between 3 and 5 is more.
have many points.
one?
Probability
The
of
one
reaching between 3 and 5 will be more.
Exactly. Now, in the same way, if I tell you what is
Between A and B, it matters with distance between A and B, sir.
exactly what is
How
the distance
close
between
they
A
are
and B
placed.
called? What is the distance between A and B called? Is this right?
Yes, sir.
It's called the length of the interval. Now what I do, I'm going to do something. Now what I'm going to do is, okay, I'm going to keep this A fixed. I'm going to move this closer here. I'm going to make this as, let us say, B dash. This point, I'm going to make this as B dash. Now I ask you this question. Suppose I give the same sharp needle and I want you to throw this, but not into that interval, but not into, let's say, this interval, but I want to throw it, you to throw it within this interval. What is that probability of this needle going and sitting in this interval A, B dash versus the probability of it going sitting between A and B?
It will be less.
Yes.
A and B dash.
It is less, which means the probability has become smaller, right? Why? Because I have shrunk the interval length. I have reduced the interval length. This is like exactly saying, look, what is the probability of going between 3:45 and 4:15 versus the probability of going between 3 and 5? Yeah? Is this
Yes.
clear?
Yes, sir.
Now I'm going to do one more stuff. What am I going to do? I am going to push this B dash so close that B dash aligns with A, B double dash. So this point is B double dash, and we call the B double dash is equal to A. What have I done? I have basically moved the B dash so close such that it exactly matches with A. Now, what is the probability of this needle going and sitting at that point?
Almost 0.
What is this almost 0? We have already defined it to be the length of the interval, right?
Yeah.
The length of the interval is B minus A. The length of the interval is B dash minus A. Now, what is the length of this interval? A comma A?
0.
It is 0.
0.
Which means, if I throw a sharp needle, it should not go and sit in that point.
Yeah, that's what it means. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? But then if I throw that sharp needle, it exactly goes and sits at this point. What do we see? We say that the sharp needle cannot go and sit at that point, but the needle goes and sits there. What is the problem here that we have?
Sir, I think sir, length between A to A is 0, but that point is there. There is no distance in our length we are finding for the point. So point is there, but length is 0. So we can go as per that.
That means, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to do. Point is there, length is 0, but we have defined length to be indication of your probability. That means when we say the length to be an indication for probability, we say that the length of the point is 0, which means the probability of that needle going sitting there is 0. But then the needle goes and sits. So what do we mean? We are in a contradiction. No? Somewhere we said, look, impossible event has 0 probability. We had that definition. No? Is the question clear? We said some time back only we said that the impossible event has a probability 0. Yeah. So what do we do now? So we make our
First clarity statement or probability. We say that all impossible events have 0 probability while all 0 probability events are not impossible. Is this clear? Is this fine? That's why I said, like, when we define anything in probability, we must, whatever statements that we must make it as tight as possible. There cannot be any question of ambiguity. If there is an ambiguity, probability itself is a study of uncertainty. Now you add more uncertainty by your statement, things will go for toss. Is that clear? So what we must remember is, we must say that all impossible events have 0 probability, while all 0 probability events are not impossible. That is the takeaway from this example. Okay. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Now, let's take some more. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at more definitions. More definitions in the sense, like we have studied all these things, but then we're going to look at this. I'm going to look at what are called as independent events.
Sir, one question.
Yeah, please.
What about certain event? The same situation or?
Certain event is like, say, for example, if I tell you that you throw a sharp needle and it should fall anywhere in the 0 interval. Suppose you are going to give only this particular slot, and say you throw it there, it's naturally going to fall into that.
Okay.
Your entire sample space is between 0 and 1, and you are going to throw it only between 0 and 1. You are defining your sample space to be that 0-1 interval, which means naturally the probability will be certain. It is not going to fall anywhere else.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah. It is like saying, I have an engineering college where the probability of a student becoming an engineer is always 1, because an engineering college can only give me engineers. Suppose if somebody says out of an engineering college came a medical student, that's an impossible event.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go ahead. So what are independent events? Somebody said, oh, P of A intersection B is P of A into P of B for independent events. What are independent events?
There is no common activities between the event.
Oh, that is disjoint event.
An occurrence of an event will not depend on whether the other event occurs or not, sir.
Oh, the independence actually means that. No? Can we have some better definition? See, when we say two events are independent, we cannot say two events are independent when the occurrence of one event does not
Yeah.
depend on the other.
Yeah, yeah.
We cannot
Affects
use
the
the same
previous
thing.
event, does not affect the previous.
It does not influence the previous event. Okay. Or it does not influence any future event. Okay. So let's write this. So independent events, what does it mean? It means two events are independent if and only if the occurrence of one event does not influence the other. Influence the occurrence of the other. What is the example? Suppose you take a coin and you toss. In the first toss, you get a head. The occurrence of head in the first toss is no way going to affect the occurrence of a head in the second toss or tail in the second toss. They are completely decoupled. Is this okay?
Sir. Yes, sir.
So how do we write this mathematically? Mathematically, this is written as P of A intersection B is P of A plus P of into P of B. Now, the question is there a better way to interpret this independent events? So the question I have is this. Can we have a better interpretation of independent events? What do we mean by better interpreted? So we really don't even know what we mean by better interpreted. So we'll just put it in inverted quotes. Put it in inverted commas.
Conditional probability value 0.
Oh, we have not even defined conditional probability. Can you please tell me something?
Dependency that. Suppose
Dependency?
A is dependent on B, that's probability of B by A, that value is 0.
Yeah, but we have not come to that. No, we will come to that and then again reinterpret our independent event. But then, is there, when I say the occurrence of one event is not going to influence the occurrence of the other, what are we actually trying to tell? See, suppose somebody, this is quite common situation in, let's say, Bangalore. Be it summer or winter, people always carry umbrella and go. So when somebody carries umbrella, you watch from, somebody tells you, look, there is this guy who's carrying an umbrella. It is not going to convey any information about whether it is raining or it is sunny out there, right? Is this clear? Is this clear?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So what we say is, if the occurrence of one does not influence the occurrence of the other, what we interpret is the following. We say that, look, we get no new information about, let's say, the event B or A. Event B, I put it in bracket, whatever I put in bracket corresponds to the other event, okay? Or I'll probably say event or A. B or A. After the occurrence of the event A or B. Is this clear? See, independent events means they don't convey any information about the other. The moment they don't convey any information about the other, we are not in a position to update our existing knowledge about the other fellow. Is this clear? See, as I said, if you toss a coin and you get a head, does this convey any information about the future toss being a head or a tail? It still has 50-50 probability, which was already there for me. I mean, which is something which I already knew. Is that right? Is that clear? This simply means independent events do not allow us to update the knowledge about a given event upon the occurrence of the other events. Is this clear? In fact, this is more important as far as our machine learning is concerned. See, suppose if you are not going to get any kind of information, say, for example, somebody, you take the height measure of, let's say, 100 students, and you say that, look, I'm going to take the, physics marks of 100 students, those 100 students. You say that, look, the height being 6 feet and above, is it going to convey something about the physics marks that the students get? I mean, it's actually an absurd decision that you're trying to make. But then, is it going to? Typically, that's what you call as uncorrelated or whatever. Okay. But independent events are fellows which don't give information, which do not reveal any information. That's all. Now, what we do, since this happens, now I'm going to go to a new definition. What is that new definition? I'm going to look at what is called as conditional probability. I'm going to look at conditional probability. What do we mean by conditional probability? I want to look at this. Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
One event totally depend on the other event. Who get the probability? So
one totally dependent on the other. That means if this event occurs, I know everything about the other event. Is that what we are trying to tell? That's not the case, no?
Occurrence of the second event depends upon the occurrence of the first one.
Okay. Now, can we make a definition from here? Like independent events, we said conditional probability. Now we are going to say something. See, what you told is about independent events. I'm just asking you about dependent events. I'm just going to ask you about conditional probability. What does conditional probability do? Why do we need this notion? See, suppose I have this event B. Let's take A and B to be two events. Suppose I have A and B two events. Suppose we say that event B has occurred. Does this event, so my lookout is basically for this. So my curiosity or my interest is, does this convey anything about event A?
both are independent.
No, we're not saying anything about independent. I'm just asking you about conditional.
P of
Does this say? Yeah. Please go ahead.
A will occur only after B occurrence.
B has occurred. Now I want to see whether it is also A. What do we mean by this?
It doesn't convey anything about yes, sir.
No, I'm asking you definition for conditional probability. You're all talking about independent events and stuff. I'm asking about conditional probability definition.
P of B by A equals to P of B.
No. That is the case. You're talking about independent events. I'm asking you, why do we need this notion of conditional probability? We need the notion of conditional probability precisely because one event has occurred. I want to gain some information about the other event, knowing that this has happened. It is like typical crime scenes. No, you've seen most of these. Typically when there is a theft or when there is a burglary, what do police do? They go and see some evidence. Seeing some evidence, now they are going to find out what is the probability that this fellow this is the gang which has done this. Right, typically, which is common in case of all terrorist activities. Whenever there used to be terrorist activities, what do people do? They go collect evidence from there. Based on that evidence, given that I have this evidence, what is the probability that this particular group was responsible? Yeah.
Is it P intersection B divided by P of B?
Exactly. So now what I'm going to look at is I'm going to look at P of A given B. That means A given B means this says event B has occurred. A given B means given B basically means event B has occurred. What is A given B? Event B or A also occurs. That's what it is. That simply tells that there should be some elements in common between A and B. So we are going to say this is mathematically defined as P of A intersection B divided by P of B. Similarly, P given A is P of A intersection B divided by P of A. Okay, now the question is, for this definition to hold good, what is the necessary condition? Is the question clear?
First formula, P of B is non-zero.
Exactly. So in
Second
this case,
is P of A is
that's
non-zero.
nice. That's nice. So this simply means, this implies P of B not equal to 0, P of A not equal to 0. Now from both the definitions, I can make one thing out. What is that? It says P of A given B is P of A intersection B divided by P of B, and P of B given A is nothing but P of A intersection B divided by P of A. Now I'm just going to do some mathematical manipulation, then I'm going to talk about something. So from here, this implies P of A intersection B is nothing but P of A given B into P of B, and this implies P of A intersection B is equal to P of B given A into P of A. Okay, this simply means two things. P of A given B into P of B is equal to P of B given A into P of A divided by P of B. Is this okay? Now I'm going to make another interesting comment here, saying if A and B are independent, then P of A given B is equal to P of A intersection B divided by P of B, which is the same as P of A into P of B.
Sir, one minute, sir. Sir, in above this P of A, B, you have concluded one formula, no? That P of B will be not there in the left hand side because P of B you are dividing.
Yeah. I did see that. Yeah. Thanks. That's correct. Okay. I'm just equating these two. Okay, sorry. Apologies. Okay. Now these two gets knocked off. So what we get? We basically get P of A intersection B is equal to P of A. Now what does this actually tell us? What do we conclude from here? What is P of A?
P of A, this is what we call as prior probability. That means this probability we already know. We already know. Yeah. This is some probability which we already know. Now, what is P of A given B? What is this probability? Can someone tell me what is this probability?
So probability of A when B has already occurred.
What do we call that as? There is a name for this.
Conditional probability.
This is
Conditional probability.
This is called posterior probability. And this is called prior probability. Posterior probability is probability of a particular event after knowing the second event has occurred. That means this is a probability which we are trying to, okay, this posterior probability basically tells us that, look, this we can say updated probability about A, updated probability about A, given that or based on occurrence of B, based on the knowledge that B has occurred. Oh, I'm very sorry that I'm still running short of time for describing random variables. I'll do it faster. Based on the knowledge that B has occurred. Now, can we conclude something from here? From this, can we conclude something? What is that? From here. Can we conclude something about independent events based on this definition? We just told if A and B are independent, then P of A given B is P of A. Similarly, P of B given A is P of B. Now, what is it that we can conclude about independent events given this definition?
A is
P
not.
of A intersection B is P of A into P of B.
That we have already known. We started from there only, right? See, there is this nice trick. I'll just ask you this question. It's a bit small digression. Suppose I tell you, add these numbers, 73 plus 47. This is basically 120, right? Now, suppose I ask you, how do you know that 120 is the correct answer? What do we do? We say, okay, fine, I will subtract 47 from here, I should get 73. I have added these two numbers and then I got this. Now, if I want to check whether this is correct, what do we do? You say that, look, I will go back to this, I'll subtract and then get this. That is like cheating. I can always do. If I made a mistake here, I can ensure that the mistake is still retained by subtracting and getting the other number. Why will I waste time in subtracting, right? How do you check whether the sum of two numbers is what you have got? It's an easy way to do it. You add the numbers this way, so you get a 1 here. You add the number these two way, you get 11. Add these two fellows. This is 1 plus 0, which is 1. This is 1 plus 1, which is 2. Now add the numbers this way, 1 plus 2 plus 3. These two should be the same. This sum and this sum should be the same. That's the best way to verify whether your results are correct or not when you add two numbers. Now what did we say? We said that P of A, A given B is P of A. So what do we conclude? We cannot go and say P of A intersection B is P of A into P of B. Because of P of A intersection B is P of A into P of B, we got this. So what is it that we conclude? We conclude that is this clear? What is the conclusion? The conclusion is this. If A and B are independent events, then the posterior probability is equal to prior probability. That's all.
Is this clear? If I say posterior probability is equal to prior probability, it simply means I have gained no new knowledge about one event based on the occurrence of the other. Is this clear? This simply means, implies we gained no new knowledge in O than what we already had. Than what we already have.
Okay. Now, from here, I'm going to make some more strides into this conditional probability, where it is very essential that we know the crowning theorem of probability is basically your Bayes theorem. So from here, how do we go on to Bayes theorem? That's what we're going to look at. Is that okay? So,
Sir, is it possible to give one example based on this given concept?
which one? P of A given B is P of A to. Let's take
Yeah,
this
yeah,
one.
P of A.
No, we'll take that up. We'll take that up. Don't worry. Example. Let us take this. Okay. Experiment B. Throwing
Throwing a die.
throwing two fair four-sided die. That means it just has four sides, okay? Four-sided die, which means it contains numbers only from 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm because 60. If I put 6, I'll write 36 elements. So I'll do this. It says fair four-sided die. Therefore, what am I going to have? I'm going to have numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to have number 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, what is the probability of getting a 1, 1? Probability of getting a 1, 1 is probability of getting a 1 here and the probability of getting the other one in the second die. So this is what is the probability of getting a 1? P of getting 1 is equal to P of 2 is equal to P of 3 is equal to P of 4 is equal to 1 by 4. Yeah, this is for the first die. For the second die also it is the same, because we have said two fair-sided die, four-sided die, right? So I'm going to have probabilities to be 1 by 16. So totally I'm going to have these many things, 1, 1, 1, 2, etc. till 4, 4. So if you look at the possible outcomes in each case, I'm going to get 1 by 16 probability. So each of them is 1 by 16, 1 by 16, 1 by 16, etc. So this is also 1 by 16. Now I tell you, given that 1 has occurred in one of the die, what is the probability of getting the other one being 1? Is that clear? So suppose I tell you, let event A be the probability of getting a 1 in die 1. Okay, so given that event A has occurred, what is the probability of getting a 1 on the second side? Here we can straight away say, because P of 1, 1 is equal to 1 by 16, this is the same as P of 1 in the first die into P of 1 in the second die, which is nothing but 1 by 4 into 1 by 4. Is this clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Shall we go ahead? Now I'm going to look at this one. Say suppose
I take this. Consider the following scenario. Consider the following scenario. Wherein which I have a sample space omega. I have, say, A1, A2, A3, A4. These are disjoint events. AIs are disjoint. What do we mean by disjoint? They have nothing in common. Okay, they are disjoint partitions on omega. Now, I will define another event to say B. Okay, which is basically defined like this. B is not the entire omega, but B has a few elements from A1, few elements from A2, few elements from A3, and few elements from A4. This is what I have. Now I want to find out P of B. So the question is, what is P of B? What is P of B? I know that the event B is nothing but B intersection with A1. Yes, B intersection with A1 union B intersection with A2 union B intersection with A3 union B intersection A4. Is this okay? You get this, no? It is like how do you use a cup or something to cut a cake or something, right? What do we do? Or probably if you want to, you've seen these people making, what do you call?
By concept of Bayes theorem.
No, we have not yet come to Bayes theorem. This means Bayes theorem, we are going to get to Bayes theorem.
Yeah.
The question is this. This is like saying, okay, see, many people you see, how many of you light dhoop at home? You will have this cone, right? Now, what do? You press this cone into a box of that, whatever that samprani, the dhoop that you have. This is an empty cone. When you press it and take, what will happen? That is basically, let us assume that this is the event B. And wherever you have pressed and taken the cone, that particular portion is intersection with A1. Is that clear? So the same way, now I'm going to have, the same way I'm going to have, if I'm going to look at the total probability of B, it is nothing but P of B intersection A1 plus B intersection union B intersection A2 union, I mean, the event B is B intersection A1 union B intersection A2 union B intersection A3 union B intersection A4. Now, what can we say about all these events? B intersection A1, B intersection A2, B intersection A3, B intersection A4. We have already said the AIs are all disjoint. Therefore, these fellows are all disjoint events. This, they're all disjoint events. Now, the moment we know that these are all disjoint events, I know something. What is that? I can put the probability of B as sum of probabilities. This is nothing but P of B intersection A1 plus P of B intersection A2 plus P of B intersection A3 plus P of B intersection A4. Okay, but what is P of B intersection A1? Is this clear? So if A and B are disjoint, we'll write this. If A and B are disjoint, then we know that P of A union B is P of A plus P of B. The same thing, therefore, P of B is equal to this. Okay, now what is P of B intersection A1? This we already know. P of B given A1 into P of A1. Is this right? We wrote it here somewhere in the beginning.
Yes, sir, correct.
Yeah, so let's do that. So we have P of B intersection A1 is this plus P of B given A2 into P of A2 plus P of B given A3 into P of A3 plus P of B given A4 into P of A4. Is this okay? That means now I'm going to write P of B as sigma
I is equal to 1 to n P of B given AI into P of AI. This is what we call as law of total probability or total probability theorem. Okay. Is this fine?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, how do we interpret this total probability theorem or law of total probability? How do we interpret this? Because we ultimately we need to interpret everything that we have. No? If we don't do it, then it's a problem. So how do we interpret this? So what we do is the following. We say B is the effect AIs are all the causes. Suppose B is the event of somebody getting a fever. Let's assume that. Now, if we say fever, then people will catch us. But let's assume that B is the event of getting fever. Okay, let's forget about it. Let's talk something good, not fever. P is the event of you getting to college late on a particular day. Let us assume that B is the event of you getting to college on a particular day, and AIs are all the reasons for you to get late. What does it mean? AI could be, event A1 could be you got up late that particular morning. Event A2 could be your petrol tank, your fuel tank was empty. You had to go there to the petrol station, then fill petrol. Event A3 could be heavy traffic jam in Bangalore, because that is a sure shot event in Bangalore. So you have heavy traffic jam. Event A4 could be on that fateful day you forgot to take your wallet, license and all, a cop catches you. Right? B is the event of you going late. AI is you getting late, event of you getting late. Then A1 is you getting late. A2 is no fuel in your bike. A3 is traffic jam, and A4 you get caught with the police, traffic cop. So therefore, now what is the effect of, what is the probability of you going to late? You going late to the college.
All events.
So it is basically you going late to the college, given that you got up late, into the event of getting late, into the event of getting up late, that is P of A1, plus you going to the college late, given that there was a traffic jam, into probability of traffic jam, plus probability of you going late to the college because your tank was empty, you had to fill, into probability of going to the petrol station, plus probability of you going late to the college, given that you are caught by a traffic cop, into probability of you getting caught by a traffic cop. Is that clear? So basically, I call B to be effects, and AIs, these are all called as disjoint causes. They have nothing in common. Is this okay? Assuming that you getting up late is no way going to, let us say that because you get up late, you end up seeing heavy traffic jam. No, let us decouple all of them. Is this okay? This is called law of total probability. Is everybody getting this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now I have a question. This is more interesting. What is the question that we're going to look at? The question is the following. Suppose B has occurred. That means you have gone late to the college. The question is, what is the probability of the event AI being responsible for it? I will say, instead of being responsible, I will use this. What is the probability of event AI also having occurred?
Is that clear? Now, what we want to do is we want to look at P of AI given B. What is this probability? What is this probability? This probability is pretty simple. What is that? Can you tell me what it is?
Or the AI the probability of AI.
This P of AI given B, we should do something.
Yes.
We already know this definition that, let's do
Yeah.
this. So, one minute. By conditional probability, we know P of A given B is P of A intersection B divided by P of B. Is this right? This we already know, right? Now what I'm asking is, I'm asking the same question. P of AI given B. What does this mean? This is P of AI intersection B divided by P of B. But what is P of A intersection B? P of AI intersection B is P of B given AI into P of AI divided by, what is P of B? P of B is nothing but I is equal to 1 to
Yeah.
N P of B given AI into P of AI. Is this right?
Yes, sir.
This is P of AI given B, and this is what we call as Bayes theorem.
Bayes theorem.
This is what we call as Bayes theorem. Now, how do we interpret Bayes theorem? That's more important, right? We need to interpret Bayes theorem. So let me write this. I'll rewrite this a bit. I'll rearrange the terms and then write it a bit. Okay. So P of AI given B is equal to P of B given AI divided by sigma I is equal to 1 to N P of B given AI into P of AI into P of A. Can I do this? I have just pulled this P of AI separate.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, we already know what is this. What is the meaning of this? AI given B. What is the meaning of this? We wrote it here. Why did we write? Yes. What is that? P of A given B? Posterior probability. What is P of A? Prior probability. Is that right? So we're going to write the same thing here. So we're going to write, this is basically my posterior probability. Posterior is equal to, what is this? What is that? P of AI?
Prior probability.
That is prior. Now, what is in the denominator? What is this? This entire term? This entire term is P of B. But what would we call B to be? B is nothing but the effect. Yes? B is the effect. See, again, I'll go back to this current scenario that we face. If somebody has a fever, B is the event of somebody having fever. Now, what are all the causes that people will think? Is that a normal viral fever? Or is that due to some kind of food poisoning? Or is that due to increased glucose levels? Or is that due to COVID? Right? Now that somebody has higher temperature, I want to nail what is the observing that there is a higher temperature. Now, what is the probability that it could be viral fever? What is the probability that it could be COVID? Yeah, that's what we're looking at. So, what are we going to call this as P of B as? Let's do we have a name for P of B? This is called evidence, because this is what you see, right? This is what you see. You have your evidence, right? Evidence is the event that you got, that somebody has got fever. So let me write that. So this is nothing but evidence. What about this? P of B given AI?
It is the likelihood of somebody getting fever because they have viral infection, because they have COVID, because they have some food poisoning. Yeah. So this is called likelihood. So we're going to have posterior probability is equal to likelihood by evidence into prior. This is your Bayes theorem. Is this clear? Is everybody clear with this?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but this is exactly what we had written in previously also. Where did we write this? Oh, here. This is what we have written. So this can be rewritten as this. P of A given B is nothing but P of B given A. This is the simplest form of looking at Bayes theorem into P of A divided by P of B. Is this clear? So here you see this is posterior, this is likelihood, this is evidence, this is your prior. This is also Bayes theorem. This is Bayes theorem. Is this clear? So when you have multiple effects leading to a particular cause, Bayes theorem basically helps us to gain, Bayes theorem basically helps us to update about a particular cause given that the effect, given that you have observed the effect. Is this okay? Is this fine?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So any questions still here? I'll probably stop now. If there are any questions, I'll answer those questions. Otherwise, in tomorrow's class, I will do complete random variables. Inside out of random variables, we'll do. Are there any questions? Hello?
No, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, fine.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the session. Thank you.
Sure, sure.
Thank you, sir. Shall we? Yeah, next session will be tomorrow morning, is it, sir?
Yeah, definitely. We'll
Yes,
I'll do it next tomorrow morning, 9:30 to 11. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, fine. It's fine. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, welcome.
Dear participants, next session will start at 11:30 and it is hands-on. Professor Sharath from IISc will take the session. I have sent a mail consisting of few attachments. Kindly download that. It is in zip format. You can unzip it and put it in your drive. Okay. Rest of the procedure, Sharath sir will guide you. I have sent a mail in the morning. Please go through that. So if you have any clarifications, you can ask in 11:30 session so that he will also help you out to do that. Thank you.